work is transforming from the Dilbert-esque world where people live in cubicles and really spend their time focused on one single task by themselves with one single document. And they're moving to a world where things are distributed and collaborative in workspaces that look very open, using multiple different devices, iterating time and time again with lots and lots of different tools, lots and lots of different people and teams in different time zones and different offices with different functions. So again, what we're trying to do is really augment human productivity across all these different devices, whether it's an individual, whether it's a team, a business, a nonprofit, or an organization. We really want to do this with technology that's inventive and really easy to use, okay? So that people, businesses can do more and really experience some magic to do things they never would have thought possible. Okay. That's a little bit about Evernote. How do you go from an early successful startup to something that resembles a thriving business? I'm going to share some observations, as I said. I'm also going to sprinkle in some Evernote anecdotes along the way. So success, I mean, a lot of different people define success in business and startups in a lot of different ways. The formula that I like best is this one right here. It's idea multiplied by product, multiplied by team, multiplied by execution, multiplied by luck. And luck's a random number, somewhere between 0 and 10,000, okay? This is from YC. This is from Sam Altman at Y Combinator, and I absolutely love it, okay? And my point is not to over-obsess upon luck. I believe that if you focus on the first 4 variables in this equation, the things that you largely control, then you'll create your own luck. I sometimes call this strategic serendipity, this notion that if you go and work hard and control the things you can control, you're going to create your own luck. But you do need luck in order to be successful. What else do you need? Okay, let's peel into these things a little bit. I think a successful company, from startup all the way to thriving company, really requires excellence across those 4 variables before, but loosely categorized here. I want to talk first and foremost about market. The first thing I'll encourage you to do, if you don't do this already, is to really obsess on the problem, not the solution. So, so many people, including my former employer, Google, really gets obsessed with technology for its own sake, gets obsessed with the solution, and goes out in search of a problem, and I believe that's backwards. Okay, so if you really remember just one thing, you really have to fall in love with the problem, obsess about the problem, not the solution, at least at the beginning. This is a core premise, of course, of the lean startup movement, this notion of getting out of the building. Answers don't live in the building. They don't live on the whiteboard. You have to get out and talk to people. You have to ask them open-ended questions. You have to understand the problem better than they understand it themselves. You also have to understand the solutions and the products that are being used to meet that need today. This is so you can understand your competition. You can understand how people are going about addressing that need so you can go and crush that current solution. So Silicon Valley and the world, I believe, is littered, as I said, with people who go out and build products before they actually define what the heck it is they're solving for. And that's a huge problem. When we talked about Evernote, I talked about Evernote a little bit. What was the problem? The problem was this information overload. Really, people were feeling like they couldn't deal with information. They didn't know how to actually separate important details in their life from unimportant details. They didn't know how to find that information, right? So if you think about the magic of Google, the ability to sort through the world's information and find something within nanoseconds, Evernote, in many ways, is like your own private Google. That's the problem we were trying to solve, and we really were obsessed about it. The next part, once you're clear on the problem you're solving, is to really focus on a small market. This is actually might be counterintuitive. Everyone wants to talk about total addressable market and you want a big market. I actually fundamentally believe in the opposite. You need to focus very, very small. I like to say think big, start small, and scale over time. So why do I say this? If anyone's read Peter Thiel's book, he explains this better than anyone else that I've read, and he talks about how Facebook started, right? And the notion of network effects. Network effects are about the most powerful thing that exists in business. And network effects, by nature, actually start small. So when Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, he didn't set out to network the entire world. No, he started to network his dorm and Harvard, right? And then when he got the local network effects working at Harvard, he extended it to the other Ivy League schools. And the rest, of course, is history. Now, over 1 billion people are using Facebook pretty much every day. And the notion is not just to get those network effects, but to delight those small group of people so that they become your biggest evangelists and biggest advocates. So it's far, far better to start really, really small, to really, really delight a small group of users. It's far better to have 100 people that love you than 1,000 or even 10,000 people that kind of like you. So that's really what when I talk about the market in that early stage. Okay? Once you figure that out, I think you're in business, right? You've got a problem that you understand at a very, very fundamental way. The next step is to actually develop a prototype. Not a full product, but something that really addresses that problem in a fundamental way. The buzzwords here, of course, are minimum viable product. You want speed to be your friend. You want to develop and get it into the market. Again, testing it with yourself is interesting, but not that useful. You want to go out and find those early evangelists that you spoke to, and you want to see if this early prototype solves enough of their needs. And the types of people you want to look for are people that have expressed the need, or the problem, and have expressed an attempt or tried to spend money to solve that very problem by themselves. And they're not satisfied with that existing problem. These are the best people to be your early evangelists. So start with that early prototype. Build that product. And focus on passing what Larry Page calls the toothbrush test, right? So how do you measure success? You don't measure success by like downloads and visits to your website. Those are all kind of garbage vanity metrics. What you really care about, I'd argue all times, but especially at this phase of your company, is really engagement. You want to see if people are actually coming back and using your product more than once. That's one of the hardest things to do, but the most important thing to do. When I look for angel investments, I first and foremost look for teams, but I look for early signs that people will use this product in a repeated fashion. Certainly the investments that have gone on to be successful, now not only that I've made, that most people make in Series A and beyond, they really are, you answer the question, have you found a cohort of people that have made this part of their daily habit? Ideally more than once. So Larry talks about the toothbrush test, and I can personally attest that when Google is making an acquisition, Larry asks this question all the time. Does it have scale, and does it pass the toothbrush test? So when you're thinking about your product, those are the things that really, really matter. The last two elements are really about culture. And I don't think it's possible to define your culture and what you stand for as a company too early. I encourage people to actually take the time to define what they stand for, to codify their values, write them down, not to be, again, like some Dilbert or a bank where it puts them on the wall to forget about them, but no, to really, really help define what you are as a company, because it actually helps when you're doing things like recruiting. If you know what you stand for as a company and can articulate it very clearly in unique language, you improve your odds of attracting the type of talent that you need to succeed. That's pretty much it. To summarize, market, obsessing about the problem, starting small and expanding over time, building a product, iterating your way through, optimizing for engagement, figuring out your culture early and often, building a world-class team, and having investors that are aligned with you for the long haul. Those are some of the things that I think will maximize your success as you go from a startup to a scaled global company.